Hello dear friends. Welcome back. How is going your Christmas? I hope all are enjoying the Christmas. Stay tuned with me to the end. Let me start the family talk stories. Breaking up with my boyfriend because I am questioning my sexuality. When I started dating my now ex-boyfriend, I genuinely thought we could have something special. We had known each other for a while, and when he asked me out, I felt excited. He was kind, funny, and had this charm about him that made me feel safe. But things started to change, for me, at least, in ways I couldn't fully understand at the time. Now, looking back, it feels like I was unraveling a part of myself that had been hidden for so long. The only problem? That unraveling ended up hurting someone I cared about, and it left me questioning if I was the bad guy in all of this. Our relationship begun off like all others. We'd go out to eat, watch movies, and text continually. I enjoyed being around him. He made me chuckle and appeared to genuinely care approximately me. For the primary few days, I thought this may be something astonishing. But around day 5, something moved. We were observing a motion picture at his put, and he came over and rested his hand on my thigh. It wasn't anything improper, it was the kind of casual closeness that couples share. But rather than feeling comforted or upbeat, I felt off. To begin with, I thought it was fair nerves. Possibly I wasn't utilized to the physical closeness, however. But the feeling didn't go absent. In reality, it got more awful. Each time he attempted to hold my hand or incline in for a kiss, I felt a developing inconvenience that I couldn't clarify. A week afterward, I was hanging out with a near companion of mine, a young lady I'd known for a long time. We were talking around irregular things, chuckling, and getting a charge out of each other's company. At a few points, she brushed her hand against mine, and for a part moment, I felt something I had never felt sometime recently. It wasn't just comfort or warmth, it was an evident start. It hit me like a ton of bricks. I was pulled into her. I attempted to brush it off, telling myself it was a fluke. But over the following few days, I couldn't halt considering almost her. Each interaction with her felt charged, whereas each interaction with my boyfriend felt off base. That's when it hit me, I wasn't awkward in my relationship sense of nerves or inability. I was awkward because I didn't need to be in a relationship with a fellow. It took me many more days to assemble the boldness to break things off. I knew I couldn't keep driving him on, and I didn't need to remain in a relationship that didn't feel right. When I at long last told him, I was as genuine as I might be. I clarified that I was addressing my sexuality, which I didn't think I may be in relationship with him or any fellow right presently. He was confounded, justifiably so, but he took it way better than I anticipated. He indeed said he'd be open to remaining companions, which made me feel a small less awful, almost the total circumstance. But that's where things started to spiral. One of my closest friends, let's call her Emily, had been supportive when I told her I was questioning my sexuality. She said it was my life and my decision, and she even encouraged me to break up with my boyfriend if I didn't feel comfortable. But after I actually did it, she completely switched her stance. Suddenly, she was calling me selfish and immature, saying I shouldn't have led him on if I wasn't sure about my feelings. She even told our mutual friends that I had used him to figure out my sexuality, which wasn't true at all. Her words stung, but what hurt even more was how our friends started to take her side. They called me an a-hole for breaking up with him, saying I should have stuck it out or waited longer to make sure I wasn't just confused. I felt isolated and guilty. Maybe they were right. Maybe I was an a-hole for ending things so quickly. Maybe I should have tried harder to make it work. But deep down, I knew staying in the relationship would have been unfair to both of us. Things with my ex-boyfriend were awkward but respectful. He didn't appear angry with me, just confused. We'd text sometimes, but the energetic had obviously changed. In the interim, Emily and I developed removed. Each time I attempted to clarify my side of things, she'd closed me down, saying I was making pardons for my behavior. It felt like no one caught on what I was going through, the perplexity, the fear, the blame. I had begun addressing myself continually. Was I blowing up to a safe relationship? Was I indeed truly pulled into young ladies, or was I fair searching for a pardon to conclusion things? The more I attempted to sort through my sentiments, the more tangled they got to be. One night, I found myself looking over through gatherings and articles approximately addressing your sexuality. I perused story after story from individuals who had gone through comparative encounters, and for the primary time, I felt seen. They talked almost the disarray, the blame, and the backfire they confronted when they came out or finished connections. But they too talked approximately the significance of being genuine to yourself, indeed when it's difficult. That's when I realized that breaking up with my boyfriend wasn't a botch. It wasn't almost him or indeed almost our relationship, it was around me at last recognizing a portion of myself that I had overlooked for so long. Remaining in that relationship would have been untrustworthy, not fair to him but to myself. And no matter how much backfire I confronted, I couldn't regret choosing genuineness over consolation. Within the weeks that taken after, I started to rebuild. I come out to my ex-boyfriend and apologized once more, not since I thought I had done something wrong, since I needed to acknowledge his sentiments. He acknowledged the motion, and whereas we're not precisely the best companions, we're on great terms. As for Emily, I have chosen to separate myself from her. It harmed to let go of our fellowship, but I realized I required individuals who upheld me, not individuals who tore me down. And then there was my friend, the girl who had sparked this whole journey. I finally opened up to her about my feelings, and to my surprise, she felt the same way. We've started exploring what a relationship between us could look like, taking things slow and figuring it out as we go. It's terrifying and exciting all at once, but for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm meant to be. Looking back, I don't think I'm the a-hole. Breaking up with someone is never easy, and questioning your sexuality adds an entirely new layer of complexity. But staying in a relationship that doesn't feel right, for any reason, isn't fair to either person. My ex-boyfriend deserves someone who can love him wholeheartedly, just as I deserve to explore my feelings and figure out who I am. Sometimes, being true to yourself means making hard choices. And while not everyone will understand those choices, that doesn't make them any less valid. Story 2. I 33-year-old don't know how to proceed with my GF, 30F, despite the healthy relationship. At 33, I find myself in a relationship that by all external measures is the epitome of stability and health. My girlfriend, a 30-year-old woman, has been my partner for 4 years. We met during the COVID-19 pandemic, an era that threw everyone into chaos but somehow brought us together. Despite our contrasting personalities, me being the extroverted, creative type and her being introverted yet socially adept and analytical, we found common ground. We share a love for healthy living, early mornings, and a strong work ethic. Together, we've built a life that's responsible, comfortable, and safe. And however, I'm stuck. Each day, I wrestle with an overpowering sense of question that bites at the edges of this apparently culminate relationship. Is this the life I genuinely need? Or am I settling for something that produces sense on paper but doesn't start the fire I've continuously longed for? On paper, my sweetheart is everything I seem to inquire for in a partner. She's kind, keen, and cleverly. She's fiscally independent and profoundly nurturing, a quality that creates her not as it were a superb accomplice but moreover somebody I can envision as a mother to our future children. Living together for the past year has been a breeze. We embraced a cat, which we both worship, and have built a day-by-day schedule that's smooth and harmonious. She's the kind of individual who responds instead of responds. Her measured approach to struggle could be an emollient to my sometimes rash, inventive nature. When life throws challenges our way, we handle them as a group. Within the amazing conspire of things, our relationship is as steady because it gets. However, there's a chewing emptiness, an intangible lost piece that I can't disregard. Whereas we share a life of concordance, we need the unconstrained delight and profound association I've needed in past connections. We do not snicker at the same jokes or discover bliss within the same music. Our physical chemistry, whereas present, has continuously felt marginally out of match-up. Closeness is secure and predictable, always on her terms, never an enterprise. As someone with a high sex drive, this takes off me longing for more excitement and closeness. I miss the start of spontaneity, the kind of connection where you lose track of time, basically being together with her. Everything feels planned, measured, and secure. As well, secure. In past relationships, I've experienced what I call tunnel vision, a total and add up to inundation within the other person that left no room for doubt. Of course, those relationships ended, demonstrating that even tunnel vision isn't foolproof. But with my current girlfriend, the lack of that all-consuming passion feels like a dazzling exclusion. I know relationships aren't assumed to feel like a constant tornado. Stability is important, and in numerous ways, it's what I've always wanted. But stability without connection feels empty. I've always needed a partner who is also my best friend, somebody with whom I can share laughter, music, and unconstrained moments of delight. Despite all her mind-blowing qualities, I do not feel that with her. The thought of finishing this relationship is paralyzing. She adores me profoundly, and I know breaking up would obliterate her. I've been in a relationship sometime recently where the other person's mental well-being was tied to my nearness. The fear of causing torment or being the catalyst for someone's enduring is something I've never completely shaken. Even now, I address in the event that my questions are narrow-minded. Am I asking for too much? Is it fair to need both stability and energy? Or am I destined to always discover something missing in my relationships? The timing never feels right to bring up these feelings. Life is busy, and we've built such a seamless flow together that disturbing it feels incomprehensible. She deserves clarity, but how do I clarify that my heart needs something I can't even completely express? For a long time we've been together, I've grown and changed. I feel more grounded in who I am and what I need for my future. When we first met, I was in a transitional phase of life, attempting to discover my balance. Presently, I feel more certain of my way. And as much as I've developed to appreciate solidness, I can't overlook the tireless voice in my head that tells me something is lost. The thought of taking off this relationship fills me with fear. What on the off chance that I'm off base? What in case I let go of something great in interest of something that doesn't exist? At the same time, I can't offer assistance but ponder. What in the event that I'm right? What in the event that there's a relationship out there that gives both soundness and the association I need? I know I can't remain in this limbo forever. It's not reasonable to her, and it's not reasonable to me. I have to be stood up to my sentiments head-on and have a genuine discussion with her. Dodging the issue as it were drags out the unavoidable and avoids both of us from finding genuine happiness, whether it's together or separated. Breaking up would mean unraveling the life we've built together. It would mean finding a new home for our cat, navigating the awkward logistics of dividing our shared space, and letting go of a partner who has been nothing but kind and supportive. It would hurt both of us deeply. But staying in a relationship where my heart isn't fully committed feels like an even greater betrayal. For now, I'm taking things one day at a time. I'm reflecting on what truly matters to me and what I need from a partner. And when the time feels right, I'll muster the courage to have the difficult conversation that I know needs to happen. Because at the end of the day, both of us deserve a love that feels complete. Story 3. Love, loss, and unspoken struggles, my final goodbye to her. For most of my 30 years, I thought I had a clear idea of what love and relationships were supposed to be. Stability, mutual respect, shared laughter, and growing together toward a future. When I met her, a 26-year-old with a vibrant personality and dreams that aligned with mine, it felt like the pieces of my life were falling into place. It didn't matter that she was from a different country, love doesn't recognize borders, or so I thought. In the beginning, our relationship blossomed in ways I never imagined. We bonded over straightforward joys, trying out in used restaurants, going to concerts, and talking about our plans for a life together. It felt normal to talk almost marriage and starting a family, as if the universe had adjusted our ways for a reason. But as with all things, breaks began to create beneath the surface. The first signs came in whispers, small minutes that didn't appear noteworthy at the time but would afterward snowball into unfavorably issues. Early in our relationship, I made a mistake, messaging ladies on Instagram when I shouldn't have. It wasn't anything unequivocal or sentimental, but it was sufficient to shake her to believe in me. She has gone up against me, harmed and befuddled. I conceded my blame and guaranteed to alter, deactivating my Instagram to revamp the belief I had broken. But the harm was done. What begun as sensible boundaries, asking me to unfollow certain accounts, morphed into a design of control. She downloaded apps to screen my social media movement, requesting clarifications for each small activity. To begin with, I complied eagerly, considering it was my atonement for selling out her belief. But over time, I felt suffocated, my each move scrutinized. And however, I stayed. Our relationship got to be a cycle of giving and excusing. I made botches, she excused me. She made botches, I excused her. But this energetic cleared out both of us strolling on eggshells, incapable to completely recuperate from past wounds. Her behavior, as well, started to winding. Whereas I understood that feelings can run high during contradictions, her responses got to be progressively sporadic. There were days she would storm out of my house after any argument, taking my car keys or house keys with her. She'd disable the following device on my car and vanish for hours, taking off me to ponder in the event that she was secure or on the off chance that something had happened to her. This past weekend was the breaking point. After a heated argument with some of my extended family members about marriage, she left abruptly, taking my keys with her. For 12 hours, I had no idea where she was. When she finally returned, it wasn't with an apology or explanation but with more anger. I realized then that this wasn't just a one-time incident, it was a pattern, one I could no longer ignore. The weekend's events weren't isolated. A few months prior, during a family prayer gathering, she had locked herself in my bathroom for over an hour. What started as an emotional moment turned into a full-blown scene. She felt targeted by the preacher's words, believing he was indirectly speaking about her strained relationship with her own parents. I tried to support her, to remind her she didn't have to be participated in the prayer in case it made her awkward. But rather than talking to me or taking a minute to herself, she bolted herself absent, crying and denying coming out. After an hour of arguing with her, I about called the fire office sometime recently. I managed to open the entryway myself. Her feelings continuously appeared to raise past reason. Whether it was with me or my family, contradictions frequently finished in sensational exits or indeed physical quarrels. Whereas I caught on that her past injury molded her responses, I couldn't disregard how her behavior was influencing me and my family. All through our relationship, my family had been strong of us. They invited her into our domestic, treated her with benevolence, and even tried to oblige her social contrasts. But her visit upheavals and propensity of airing our private issues before them started to strain their tolerance. The primary time she freely stood up to me around a personal matter, I was humiliated. She had recorded one of our contentions and played it back before my family to demonstrate a point. In spite of the fact that I excused her, I couldn't shake the unease it left behind. When it happened a moment time, I knew I couldn't let it slide once more. My family, who had continuously been my shake, encouraged me to consider finishing the relationship. They might see how much the consistent pressure was weighing on me, indeed in case I attempted to stow away it. Their words resounded in my mind. If you stay, you're telling her this behavior is okay. What makes this situation even more heart-wrenching is the reality that she's 18 weeks pregnant with our child. When she to begin with told me, I was overwhelmed with a blend of emotions, joy, fear, and duty. I had always wanted to be a father, and in spite of our issues, I believed we could make it work for the purpose of our child. But as the weeks passed, I began to question whether bringing a child into this unstable environment was the proper decision. I stressed about how her behavior would affect our child's childhood and whether we could give the steady, cherishing domestic each child merits. Breaking up with somebody you adore is never easy, but it's even harder when there's a child involved. I wrestled with my choice for weeks, torn between my love for her and my need for peace and stability. Each time I considered finishing things, guilt consumed me. I knew she would need to return to her home country, taking off behind the life she had begun to build here. The thought of her raising our child alone was terrible, but so was the thought of proceeding in a relationship that was harming to both of us. When I at long last sat her down to talk, I chose my words carefully. I told her how much I cared for her and how deeply I valued the time we went through together. But I moreover clarified that our relationship had gotten to be undesirable, and remaining together would as it were make things more regrettable for both of us, and for our child. She didn't take it well. There were tears, allegations, and supplications for another chance. But I held my ground, knowing this was the correct decision for all of us. I promised to support her and our child in every way I may, even if we weren't together. I offered to help her return to her home country and made courses of action for money related to bolster during and after her pregnancy. Letting go of her was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do, but it was to the foremost necessary. For the to begin with time in months, I feel a sense of clarity and peace. I know the street ahead won't be simple, but I'm decided to be the leading father I can be, indeed from a remove. Sometimes love isn't enough to save a relationship, and that's okay. It doesn't mean the love wasn't real or that the time spent together wasn't meaningful. It simply means that some chapters are meant to end so new ones can begin. Thank you for watching and listening the story. Good night. All have a great sleep. We meet on the next Family Tales and Truths. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe.